You think we need it, Roland? Sorry. The Matsons have something to report, though, don't they?
We do. We're going to have an incredible meeting on November 15th that we're looking so forward to. So it's going to be fun planning it.
Is it a bad thing to be nervous that we're going to have too many people?
I hope you get real nervous, Rob.
Yeah, you know me, Roland, real nervous. We started looking for bigger places already.
So we're like, where are we going to have it?
Here's some things, a little bit of it I talked about on the last call, last Zoom. And I've gone over this with Angel Torres, and he feels very good about it. Talked about it on the follow-up calls that we're now having Zooms with people who want to be the follow-up to what Richard has been doing, hearing from different people. And last week, Laura Evans and I talked about the business. And one of the things that I talked about is that I feel in the steps of doing the business, number one, you have to really, really, really have a passion for making a difference, the Shackley philosophy. That's number one, which we've gotten away from in Shackley big time, big time. That was something that drove everybody many years ago because Dr. Shackley always talked about the philosophy. He talked about staying in balance and harmony with nature, and he talked about the golden rule. He talked about making a difference, helping mankind, and from there, we went on to the next step is having your own why. We have talked a lot about you've got to have your why, but if you do not have a burning desire to make a difference and have a mission with this business, which makes us so unique because in other companies, they don't have the products to back them up like we do. So we have an incredible, incredible mission. And I mentioned on the last Zoom that we had that I've been spending more time talking to people who are interested in coming into Shackley. I spend 30 minutes talking about the mission. If they cannot grasp and realize there is a mission, then it's a roller coaster. The mission is something you generally stay with. Maybe you're not going to be as consistently staying with it, but you're going to stay with it through thick and thin. I don't know if I mentioned on the last Zoom, but I'll say it again for those of you who maybe didn't hear it. But I remember years ago, Madeline and Roger Trottier, the people who are helping me in Shackley get started, said, we're going to go to Minneapolis. There's going to be a big meeting there. Dr. Shackley's son is going to be there, and it's going to be big. It's going to really be big, wonderful. And then from there, we will go on to Traverse City to do an in-home meeting for you from California. Then we're going to go on to New York driving and work with some of our people there. Here are a couple of things that I feel are very important in the story. Number one is that I immediately said I can't go. Ever heard of that? People saying no, and they don't even know what it's about? I said, I can't go. She said, well, why can't you go? And I said, well, you know, I just won't be able to go. She said, well, could you check and see what it costs to come? And I said, Madeline, I don't have the money. I didn't even know what it cost. Ever heard of people doing that? She said, well, how about if you check to see what it costs and you can stay, we'll pick you up at the airport. And I said, well, I can't afford it, but I'll check. And she said, you can stay with us in our room. Now, this is what happens when you have a mission. You go beyond the call of duty to say, look, you can stay in our room. And I did, because I checked. I found a flight to Minneapolis, and it was in such a high caliber thinking of people is probably what motivated me to go on to Master Coordinator. So I went through what normally most people do is say immediately, no, I can't. and did not even begin to think of the value that I would have. And they introduced me to a guy by the name of Clarence Hunt. I remember it today like yesterday. He's deceased now, I believe. But Clarence was right off the farm. And I just could kind of tell he hadn't been around social circles too much. He had this brown suit on, and it was too small for his big body, and looked like the buttons were ready to pop on the front. And he had a bonus car, and on the car had two big bull horns from like a Brahma bull on this Cadillac. And they said he's a coordinator, and at that time you had to have 4 first-level directors to be labeled a coordinator. And I said, boy, if that guy can do it, I can do it. He's so uncouth. And yet he's doing Shackley. I mean, saying everything wrong. I mean, it's just a blowhard. I don't know how he ever built. Anyway, he did. That's what I remember about that meeting. Meeting the Hagermans, meeting some of these other people who are way up there in the Shackley business. It elevates your thinking. And we must do everything we can to elevate the thinking. We have an opportunity of going to Chicago and hearing stuff that you're never going to hear anyplace else. You talk about elevating your thinking. It's going to be phenomenal. We just had a meeting today talking about the planning of Chicago and what's going to happen there. It's going to be very, very, very good because it raises the thinking. It's all about the thinking. And so whatever can be done, get to Chicago. Get to Chicago. And you can go to the Altus Productions, I believe, and find out more about it. And there's a session starting on Thursday, which is going to be a higher level, or excuse me, on Friday, higher level discussion with Richard. He's going to be doing most of the meeting all day long. And it's all going to be about building organizations. And then on Friday night is going to be an open meeting to invite anybody and everybody to come in to hear a opportunity meeting, which is going to be done a little bit by Richard and also by other master coordinators. And then on Saturday, people can come. It's not going to be quite as high a level, but it's going to be where people can come to, say, Friday night and also to Saturday if they choose, and really, really learn about, you know, all the good stuff and building the Shackley business and helping other people and so on. And you know, Richard does a great job. And you're also probably hearing from some of the other master coordinators at that time as well. So looking back on it, I made a decision a number of years ago to go to Minneapolis. It's been paying off ever since, believe me, big time. So I'm on a number of calls. We have our Wednesday call, the Altus call, with the Whiteman group, the Osterhaus group, every Wednesday. And I also do a number of Zooms for different organizations on a regular basis. And talking to some other people who are really wanting to move ahead in Shackley, we've come to the same conclusion. And I talk to the key coordinators every Monday. And like, what was that comment that you made, Nina, about it's harder to get restarted?
It's much harder to get started than to keep going.
Yes.
Yeah. It's hard, it's painful, all of those things.
Yep.
But once you get going, we all have fun.
Yep. And so I delivered a message to the key coordinators, delivered a message to the people on the Altus program and other Zoom that I did. And that is to the key coordinators. I said, I've been doing this for 2 years. And people love it. It's good. Get a number of keys on. But I said, you're not moving ahead because you haven't made a decision to move ahead. The process is you must have a mission, then you have a why, then you understand the business, and then you make a decision. And I said, many of you may have a little bit of a why, but you don't have a mission I mean, you want to help people, but I'm talking about a real dedicated mission to have some passion and feeling behind it. And you don't have that. And I said, I'm wasting your time and you're wasting my time. Many of you should have been master coordinators by now. That's the message I'm giving. And Carol and I talked about the Altus call, which has been going on for 10 years. I said, a number of you should be master coordinators. You're addicted to the medicine. And it's a good way to say I'm doing Shackley because I was on that call yesterday. I was on that Zoom. So with what we have going with Richard and everything, a whole different level of thinking, I'm now saying to people, once they understand Shackley and they really want to grow, why not look at a six-figure income? Why not look at master coordinator? I was on the internet the other day, and I don't get on it very often. But number one, it's very confusing. And number two, there's nothing in there about building an organization and becoming a master coordinator. You know, so I don't even want people to go there. I don't want to go there unless I have to, because our focus is so far from what it should be. And in talking to Angel Torres about this the other day, I said, we in the field are the ones that must change the focus. Stop waiting for it to happen. I talked to somebody in Colorado today, and she said, well, we've got to have some sort of a good video that shows business and products that we can get out to people. And I said, that would be nice, but I said, why don't you give yourself permission to grow in Shackley? Working at Shackley for a couple of years and the volume is $500 a month. He said, what are you afraid of? It all goes back to fear. What are you afraid of? It's ridiculous. I said, if you are willing to talk to yourself, by January, you can go out as a director, and by the end of next year, you can be at an executive level. But you're afraid. Most of the time, we don't deal with the reality of the thinking with people. We want to give ideas. We want to give solutions as to what they can do, how they can improve in their business and so on. And we don't get to the reality of the fact that everybody's afraid to move ahead. And so we're getting to the reality of that. I'll see what happens, what the response is from people on the key coordinator call next Monday, but I'm not doing them a service by trying to keep them a little motivated or hearing from what other people are doing and so on, because nobody's got the courage to step out. So what I'm finding is good results, like once again I did today. I had a good talk with Michelle and Rob in the New York area, New York, and talked about the fact to understand, number one, you can't break the barrier. And if our barrier is to become a director, it's going to take forever to get there. You got to look past the barrier, way past the barrier. And because they're both working at Shackley, and I know Michelle especially very well, and I'm getting to know Rob, I said, why not look at a six-figure income? It's a whole different ballgame than looking at maybe 30,000 and then maybe going to 40,000 and then maybe to 50,000. You see, the tendency is that people start off low and then they try to graduate, which means we lose an incredible amount of time and money. That's like painting the house. I think I want to paint the whole house, but for right now, just buy enough paint to paint part of the wall on the outside. And then I go back to the store and get another can of paint and paint a little bit more and a little bit more. Well, I tell you, it takes forever to get the house painted. And to make it to that 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, the bigger the picture, the bigger the stretch that I feel good about, that I'm scared about, the quicker I'll get to the 30, the 40, the 50. I'm focusing on a six-figure income. And this is it's going to make a tremendous difference. And I'm thinking, when I went to California initially, I roomed with a guy who was from the same small town that I was from, and he had a small motorcycle and I got a small one, a real small one, going around, going to school and so on. And like so many people do in boating and everything else, they start off with a small boat and then a little bigger boat, then a little bigger boat, and a little bigger boat, and they spend a lot of money and waste a lot of money and lose their time. Well, I did the same thing. Well, I got a little bigger motorcycle. He got a little bigger motorcycle. Well, the thing is, if you get the big motorcycle, you'll save time and you'll save money. Because with a smaller motorcycle, I couldn't go on the expressways. I had to take all the back roads, hit all the stoplights and everything else to get any place. So I could have saved time with a bigger motorcycle getting to where I had to go. And actually, a bigger motorcycle is safer, by the way, because it has the power and it's not over-braked. But that's the way most people operate. Well, let me go to the next level, then I'll think about it. Well, but you think about it for 2 years, then you decide to move on. And I said, in the meantime, you've lost a lot of people. A lot of people who said, I think I'm interested, and we don't hear them say those things because all I'm doing is looking for a little more volume, a little higher bonus check. We waste so much time. So I felt they can comment on it in a minute if they would, but I had a great time talking with Michelle and Rob today. We spent over an hour talking about and planning the future and getting them to understand that when you do that, your creativity is much bigger, much better, and you attract more people. And it's so much nicer to be able to say to somebody when it's the right time, well, what I'm doing in Shackley is helping a lot of people, and I'm going to be getting a 6-figure income. You want to join me? I asked a key coordinator the other day, would you please tell your group what you're going to do? And on the Zoom, and she did. And she said, I'm working towards master. Well, heck, I know people have been working towards master for 110,000 years. And we've been so neglecting that area that instead of saying, I'm going to be a master, I'm working towards it. And when I heard that, my heart sunk to my toes because she thought she was expressing something very strong and it was so weak. And when I talk to her, I'm going to ask her, would you please go over that Zoom again and listen to yourself? You wouldn't convince anybody you're going to master coordinator with what you said. It's all about belief. And so saying to somebody, which most people are doing today, is, well, you can do this, you can do that. But when you say, I'm going to do it, you want to join me, boy, that makes a big difference. So one of the things that we talked about with Michelle and Rob is to really help to focus in on some things is plan the next trip. Get started now. The requirements are going to be somewhat the same. I put a call in, Michelle, Rob, to Kevin Crandall to find out about the breakout time and so on, and he said he'd know more on Friday, I believe. So he'll get back to me on that. But it looks like you can break out earlier and still get credit for breaking out as new directors and so on next year. But he's going to get back with me. And I said, well, basically know what the points are. You develop other people, and you're going to be bringing people into Shackley. And I went over in detail how many points you get for this, how many points you get for this. I did not get into qualified distributors, just members. I said if somebody buys enough products and they become a preferred member, fine. If they don't, you get 2 points. If it's 50 PV, you get 1 point. You can only get a max of so many points anyway, 100 points. And they'll probably be the same. And I said, based on where you are and what you're doing, and I believe you're very, very coachable, then you should be looking at 600 points. And here are all the trips that you're going to qualify for. We talked about the New Directors Conference in California. We talked about the Dream Trip. We talked about the great international trip. We don't know where they are yet, but they're going to be great, wonderful trips. And when you go on the Dream Trip, it's a 5-star resort or wherever. I don't know. There's always good. It's never been bad. So get started now so that by the end of 2019, you're at least at senior executive level, and you'll be on your way to be a key coordinator the next year, and definitely a master coordinator the next year. And by the time you're a key coordinator, you'll be at a six-figure income, because we're going to have a strong business. We're going to have depth. So when you get to master coordinator, you're going to be way beyond six-figure income. And that's where we're going, and that's what we talked about. Now, here's the difference between focusing on going a little ways and see what's going to happen. If Rob and Michelle focus on becoming coordinators with the two first level directors, is basically what we're talking about, they're focusing on going on the trip themselves. But if they're looking at a six-figure income, then as soon as somebody gets pretty interested in doing this business, they will say to them, you want to go with us because we're going on this next trip. That's a big, incredible difference, because most people are focusing on the trip self-serving for themselves. And when you focus on a bigger income, you can't do it all. It's not all about you. It's definitely about other people. And you move into the realm of teaching people leadership. To go on a trip yourself, you don't have to teach anybody about leadership. To help other people go on a trip, you have to teach leadership. And that's where you're in the bigger income. So it gives a whole different focus. Whole different focus. So from now on, people who are really, really interested in building, you can focus on less if you want, but you say you want to help people. Time is important. Then if you want to save time, focus on a six-figure income. Because when you focus on a lesser income, you end up doing it all yourself because you're self-serving. And you're not thinking of developing other people and having them pick up the workload, and you spend more time. So if you want to save time, if time is a factor, which it is for everybody, then look at a six-figure income. Because how much are we gaining when we put time into Shackley? We may do meetings, we do talk to people, but we don't know where we're going. Tell me how far we've gone in the last 5 years. And so we can save time, be productive, get more out of our time in doing that. Rob and Shell, do you have any comments you want to make after we had what I felt was a great call? Maybe you thought it was a lousy call, but I had a lot of fun. Do you have any comments?
I do. Like you said, you have to have those small wins, but also just really look above the chessboard. And to be self-serving is not our goal. Our goal is to help others that we know. And as you said, you pointed it out. How long are you going to let people suffer? Why wouldn't you let them know about what we're doing? And I use the line that says, oh, I'm moving towards, a six-figure income. And I said it like an hour after we spoke. Would you be interested in hearing more about it? And the woman said, absolutely. So it's good to plant dates. And I really appreciate very much the extra boost you gave us by just building it through step by step. It made a difference to me, and I felt Michelle felt the same way.
Oh, a huge difference today. And we're so excited to talk to everyone that we know, to tell them about the meeting in November and approaching it in a different way also.
Very good. Thank you for that. Anybody have any questions or comments on this? Because this is where we must go. I want to be able to put strategy into your businesses where you're really looking to build a big business, and the purpose is, yes, you're going to make more money, but the purpose is you're going to help more people. You're going to help more kids with ADD. You're going to help more kids with earaches. You're going to help more kids or people with migraine headaches. I mean, the list goes on. I think I mentioned last call of the Zoom of I just can't get her out of my mind. Somebody that is out of the military, 28 years of age, and she's consuming $15,000 worth of drugs a month. and you and I are paying for it, 15,000. And we told her, we'll work with you. We'll help you. I mean, I said, I'll have tears in my eyes when I see you walk across stage. And when you tell me you're healthy enough to have a baby, wow, that's a high in Shackley when you can help somebody. On the track that gal is on, I don't think she would live past 35. She's 28 now. She can't. I mean, she's a mess. Irritable bowel syndrome, but I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. And on all these medications, which are just weakening her system. But she's been on Shackley now for about a month. She looks a heck of a lot better and feels a little better. But, of course, people are afraid to really take a lot of Shackley. And all these things we work on. We help people to understand that. But I want to hear, and I think this is great what Nina has talked about, being accountable, because giving some ideas as to how to build a business is different than putting strategy in as to what you're doing, how it's going to make a six-figure income, and how you're building an organization. When I talk of building an organization, I'm talking about adding 10 directors to the recap, or if you're brand new, getting 10 directors in about a year. If we understand the process and we're willing to be coached, anybody can do that. But people are waiting around for things to happen instead of making things happen, and they're waiting 5 years to make certain that the relationship is good before I say anything. And boy, we're a consultant. We're not a salesperson. So many people want to be salespeople and tell people what to do instead of asking a lot of questions and say, hey, you want to hear what other people have done? Same thing is true with the business. Ask a lot of questions. They're disliking their job. Ask why they're disliking their job. And would you be interested in hearing what I'm doing so I can stay at home and make a six-figure income? Huh! Think that's powerful? That'll save you 5 months right there saying that. Instead of saying, well, would you like to find out how you can build in Shackley because your time is whatever you want to put into it and the sky is the limit and I can help you and we can work at this thing together. And I tell you, there's just a lot of things we can do. That doesn't accomplish much. What accomplishes a lot is to be able to say, you know, if you're interested, this is where I'm going, you want to go with me. And most people in Shackley, I would say 97% are not saying that. And then they wonder why they're not growing. I mean, that saves you months of time just being able to say that with conviction and belief. Who else? Who's got some comments on this?
I have some comments. I have something that I wanted to share tonight because the last time that I was on, I missed last week's, but that we were talking about fears that are stopping us. And our, you know, do we really believe, is there an issue with money, all that kind of stuff is all stuff that's hanging in the back here, right? And I heard this woman, and it was just a short bleep. Her name was Tatiana Arias, and she was $70,000. She's the very first Spanish-speaking woman in South America that made $1 million. She was $70,000 in debt, and she had that thinking of being in debt and how am I ever going to get on top of it, blah, 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 blah. In 2 years, she had $1 million launch, okay? And I thought, okay, I need to hear what she has to say. And it just really hit home to me. And maybe some of you guys have heard this already. We know what our fears are. And she said, you need to acknowledge them. Don't keep stuffing them down and stuffing them away. Acknowledge, write them out. She said, for the next 7 days, write down everything that you have a fear about. She says, because if you don't acknowledge it, you can't change it. And then the next thing she said to do is, we've all heard of affirmations. We know what the affirmation is to change that, right? We know how to make those affirmations. She said, but our mind does not think in statements. Our mind does not help us figure stuff out if it's a statement. But if it's a question, it will find the way to figure it out. So make the affirmations and put a Y in front of it. You know, why is it that I can make $300,000 a year? Why is it that I attract diamond people? You know, why is it that whatever it is that we want to attract. And then she said, but before you actually start doing those why statements, she said, you have to have an attitude of gratitude. Because I don't care where we are in life, we all have stuff to be grateful for. If all we had today was what we were grateful for yesterday. Lucy, shush. And that was just like, to me, I thought I had an attitude of gratitude, but that was so huge. What were you thankful for yesterday? That's all you have today to work with. She said, because if you don't have soil that is a gratitude soil, she said that creates the soil for the seeds to be planted in now. And she says, and then you start doing those she calls them Y formations. That will make your brain work. And she said, it will open your brain up so much. And she said, take the time every day to do your gratitude and do your Y formations. And you will be amazed how fast things change. And that is one of the best things I've ever heard of getting rid of fear. So I wanted to share that because it's made a difference for me. And it's only a week since I've heard this.
That's pretty powerful, Nina.
It's very powerful when you start playing with it.
Yes.
Oh, and the other thing she said, not just once a day, every morning, do a gratitude journal and then do your Y formations. And every night before you go to bed, thank the Lord for everything that you've done that day, or that's happened that day, or that you have that day. And then finish up with your Y formations. So I just
that's right in line with Anthony Robbins, who says every day he takes 10 minutes to think about 3 things he's thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
And he ponders on those 3 things.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear many people that are very, very successful, they say that. Be thankful. Start off your day by being thankful. And
her thing was, how in the world do you ever think you can grow a tree if you can't plant a seed because the soil is too hard? And the soil is hard if there's no gratitude.
Wow.
I loved it. And I thought, okay.
That sounds so good. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Because if it can make a difference for everybody else the way it did for me, we'll have something to report next week.
Well, what you're talking about, it's all about the thinking.
Oh, totally.
You know, people ask for another video, they ask for another piece of paper and so on. It's the thinking. We must change our thinking.
It's work that we have to do.
Yep, exactly.
You can't do my thinking. I can't do Dick's thinking.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah.
I can only do my own thinking. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So
who else? Well, thank you for that. That's definitely remembered to do that. I think it's a good practice. Other comments or questions from anybody? Because this is the direction I feel we must go. Why are we talking about growing a little bit? Because we can save time and grow so much more. They're going to be talking 6 figures. 6 figures minimum.
Roland, when you started this Zoom, you were talking about a mission. And I look back at, I look at everybody on this call, and except for maybe Michelle and Rob, we're kind of newbies because we're only 11 years in Shackley, and all you guys have been around forever. But Linda said, we're going to start. I want to start a new business. She looked at different companies. She found Shackley. I said, yeah, go ahead. I didn't buy in until I saw this recording that Roger did in his early days, and it was on Earth Day. And it was about the mission of Shackley and the mission of being environmentally conscious. And I looked at her, I said, I follow this guy anywhere. This guy knows, he's got a mission. He knows where he's going. I can do this. And that's what got me to buy in. So the mission is very important.
You know, that's a great point that you're making. You know, Roger's a good speaker, but he's always talking about a mission. Third world countries, help to reduce poverty so there's less violence. It's all about a mission. Dr. Shackley attracted everybody because it was all about a mission. This is how important it is. And so we must have a strong mission to do Shackley. Otherwise, if it's just about money, it ain't going to work. So it attracts other people. I can give an in-home meeting, and if I talk about just my why, because maybe I want to have some money to be able to buy some property on the other side of town, not everybody has the same why. But if we start talking about making a healthier world and a healthier United States, because we are on definitely death's door in terms of the health of so many people and where they're going. I mean, I'm just appalled at the medications that people are taking today. Young people, I'm talking about young people now. And I'm just appalled. And you know what's, we're missing markets because we're not thinking big enough. And another big market that is getting really big are seniors in high school, because they know going to college is going to cost a lot of money, and they've heard too many horror stories of people who've been for years trying to pay off the college debt. And so that's why Pam and Dick's grandson is on a swim team in high school, if I'm correct, and he's inviting, his whole swim team is coming to his parents' house, and we're going to have, hopefully they will invite all their parents to come to it, and I'm going to be doing a meeting for high schoolers and their parents, and I'll put money on it that the parents are all on medication. That one meeting is going to produce incredible, incredible stuff. I'm convinced of it already. But young people today, or fresh out of college, they're looking for that income that they're not going to get at their job. They've got a big college debt. This is now a talk of young people. And they are ready to make a step. And if I'm going to talk to them about how they can get in and get some free products, it's not going to go anyplace. If I can talk to them about how if you're coachable and go through the mission and everything else, then I know how to help you make a six-figure income, and that's where we'll start. We've got to be ready to do that. What are you thinking, Marilyn? I always like to know what you're thinking. You're muted.
Oh, I'm always thinking about something. But it's funny that you just mentioned that about the seniors, because I currently, again, have a granddaughter who's a senior in high school. And not only her, but her younger sister, who is a sophomore. They are both in the process of reading the 4-year career. And they're very interested, very curious. They ask me questions every now and then. They go so far and they'll ask me questions. So this is good. As long as they're asking questions, they're on the right path. And one of them is actually very interested. She really wants to come on Saturday on the 1st of December.
Wonderful.
So we're in the process of trying to figure out how to get her there. We have to get it figured out, but because I'll be there on Thursday, and for me to be able to come back home and grab her, I don't even know. I don't know how we can manage it, but we'll get it figured out.
You get it figured out. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, how many of us at that age were thinking of being such entrepreneurs? I mean, what's going on is pushing them into that thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge market that's coming up right now, big time. Huge. Thank you for that. Who else has some comments or questions?
Andre,
Go ahead, Andre.
something I've been thinking about, and this would be a good forum in which to talk about it. It's been on my mind a lot, and I'm starting to do some research on it. Universities and colleges have career days. What do you think of the idea of having a presence there at the career day and offering the 4-year career book?
I know it's a good point, Andre. I know I have missed, well, you can only do so much, but I've often said we should be in colleges in business classes because they talk about business and they don't talk about network marketing. And career day, whatever, yes, we should be there.
There's a lot of colleges that will not allow network marketers to be there.
Really?
Yep, I found that out.
Really?
Yep.
What are they afraid of? Doesn't follow the textbook?
I don't know.
Everybody has fear.
Isn't it? I mean, like, they think they're going to get their kids dubbed into something that's illegal or something, I guess. It's all misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, that reminds me of many years ago at a college in Michigan, Western Michigan University. A student was going to school there and their parents were building a business in Shackley. And she said to the instructor, can we have somebody come in and talk about nutrition? It was a nutritional class. And the instructor right away said, no. Well, all the kids said, why not? Well, why question? Why not? And so she had to give in, and she did not want me there, the instructor. But I had a stack of books with me supporting anything that I said. And she never asked one question. The instructor never asked one question. But of course, I talked about, you know, where we're going health-wise, which was not as obvious then as it is now. And so the next class they had after I was gone, the next week or whatever, she put down everything that I said. And that person who invited me there, that student who invited me, her grade dropped down 1 whole point. And it took her 6 months to get her grade back. And it happens to be a college that is near Upjohn, and they get a lot of support from Upjohn, the pharmaceutical company. So you put 2 and 2 together. Follow the money. Oh, that was interesting. I did not know that many colleges do not want network marketers in there.
And the only reason I know that is because Lisa always used to go with Josh down to, but that was an art school.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, I mean, that's what it was. It was an art school. And, you know, they always went to the job fairs. So we thought, well, let's go. And we tried several around here, and we were said, well, not if you're a network marketing business. I'm like, it's a real business. That's what I live on.
Yeah, try, Andre. See what you can do. Well, I tell you, they're all going to have big college debts. Might as well understand a way to alleviate those. That's good.
And the thing is today that it's the young people that are growing so fast in this industry.
Yes. Oh, my goodness.
It is the young people.
Yep.
because they see that freedom, they see the flexibility, they see that they get paid for what they put into it,
Uh-huh. That's right.
and
That's
nobody else gets their glory.
Mm-hmm.
They have not been tainted.
Yep. That's right.
So
That's right.
I'm gonna make a couple of approaches and
Please.
see what happens. And again, with the 4-year career book, I feel that we now have a tool that we can challenge people on,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's good.
and see what happens.
That's right.
Even just from a fun standpoint, I'll come back and say, yeah, I got kicked out. They threw me out. You know?
What you should do is take in a copy of your last check.
Yes.
I don't know if any of your students would be interested in this type of an income.
Right.
On a part-time basis to help pay their loan so they continue going to school.
That's right. Yep. Absolutely. In fact, my goal is when I talk to Pam's grandson's swim team is to emphasize that, you know, he's interested in doing shackling, making an income to help put his way through college. And I'm hoping all the parents say, yeah, this sounds good to me. You got to start envisioning what you want to have happen. Any other comments? Well, I don't know how you feel about talking about the going to master coordinator, getting the 6-figure income, but that's where we should be. We've got the best products. We have an incredible sales plan. We've got a market that is screaming for us. We're wasting our time trying to figure out how to move at little tiny steps. Are we going to have little steps? Yeah, we're going to have little steps all along the way. But if you're planning and focusing on a little step, you never get to the big one. You have the big one, then you do the little ones. And as you've heard me say so many times, if you are running a mile, it's always the last few hundred feet of the mile that are most difficult. So you want to make them easier, run 2 miles. Then you go past the mile and it doesn't even bother you. It's always the last few hundred feet. So we want to make certain that we're stretching out there far enough. And if we don't have fear with it, we're never going to grow. Fear gets us creative. Fear attracts other people. But this is where we're going. And so on the next Zoom, I want to hear from you and what you're doing to build that organization so we can fine tune it, so I can help you. We can all contribute in helping to make certain that we're building that organization, because it's a whole different game plan than building a director. It's a whole different game plan. I'll give you an example. Somebody right now in the group I know who is focusing on getting directors. And it's encouragement, it's encouragement, it's encouragement, it's encouragement. And it's a slow process. And I said, the first step is, would you please find out what that person's really thinking? You don't know. How can you maneuver if you don't know where their thinking is? That's the first step. Then the next thing is, I said, you've got to build the depth. Why are you waiting for people to understand something they don't understand, will never understand until they see it happen? You do it. Why are you waiting? So you want to figure out, first of all, what the person is thinking, so that way you know where and how to build the depth. That's what we should be talking about. And how many places do you build in depth? How frequently do you get in that organization to build that depth, and how far do you go down? When do you start giving responsibility to somebody else to be able to pick up and start picking up the workload? These are the things we want to talk about.
You know, Roland, I had a conversation with somebody today that broke out a director, and the lady that she broke out from was complaining because her check went down to nothing. And I said, why do you think that was? And she says, well, I don't know. I didn't know what to tell her. I said, it's because she had all of her chickens in that one basket. And they all hatched and they flew off on their own. And we can never, ever build with just one person because we chase them away that way as well. It goes back to your pool concept all the time.
Yep. And so that's why if you're building an organization, you can help prevent somebody from getting into the pitfalls of clothesline building and stuff like this. That's your job. instead of saying, oh yeah, keep doing it, but you know in your mind that they talk too much and they're building a clothesline. So no, just keep bringing people in. Well, you're wasting their time. You're having them go in a direction that's not going to be profitable. You've got to be the leader and step up and be able to tell them, can I go over something with you? You don't want to do that anymore.
I tell you what, I had an eye-opening experience this week with somebody that I sat down with, and we did a skincare. And then I just sat and let her do it. And we got done, and I said, can I share with you what I saw happen here today? And she said, absolutely. I need to know what I'm doing, good or bad. And I said, you know, I can tell you're very good with skincare, blah, blah, blah. I went through that. And then I said, but I will also tell you that you pushed and pushed and pushed her after she said she didn't have the money. Well, I know that wasn't the case, though. I know she's got money. And I said, but you pushed her away. And I said, that's why I jumped in, and I said, well, she said she wanted to start with cleaning products, so let's look at that for her now. But it was such an eye-opener to me, and now I know why she's struggled, because she's been selling. It's been all about sales.
Yep.
Push,
and push.
She has a huge heart, and everybody loves her that's around her. But it was all, I'm like, wow. And I didn't want to embarrass her in front of that woman. I didn't know what to do. But I just said, you know, so I shared her. And then she said to me afterwards, thank you.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. You helped her, saved her a lot of agony.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
So now when she brings people in, they'll stay.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Yep.
I know when you started with me, I couldn't keep my mouth shut in the beginning for nothing. And you corrected me over and over and over and over until I could get 4 questions out. And then I got 5 questions out. And then I got 6 questions out. And then I was good at it. So now when I sit down with somebody, I can sponsor 90-some% of them, but couldn't sponsor anybody. So it was all sales.
Oh, Nina, you don't know how good you are.
Oh, honest.
Okay, so thank you for being on. But from now on, we are talking master coordinator. We're talking a 6-figure income. We're putting strategy and how to build a business effectively, save time, and to be very, very productive. And if the timing is not right for you, that's no problem. We're not trying to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. We're happy where you are. Happy, maybe you just want to maintain your business. That's fantastic too. But this is what this Zoom is going to be about from now on.
I have one more question.
Yep.
If I may.
Yeah.
How many have master coordinator signs all around their house right now? Good for you, Gary.
Very good, Gary.
I do too.
Very good.
I finally did that. And Steve, good.
Well, Linda, years ago when they had the ribbons that they didn't come in the package. You went and picked them up.
Yep.
She picked up the master coordinator ribbon, and it sits. You can't look at our TV set without seeing it.
I had to make new signs because I took them all down.
Yeah, and if you look at those flags in that vase behind me, one of them is a master coordinator flag.
Yeah. Well, I have a big sign here, and I have it over here, and I have it over here, and I have it in my bathroom and in my kitchen, on 2 different mirrors and on my fridge, and I have big painted on my mirror in the bathroom.
Wonderful.
So I see it again.
And thinking ahead, like Andre, with the business that you have, the question you should be looking for, in my opinion, is asking people what they want to do, but try to figure out who's going to be your first master coordinator. Once you start getting up there in the business, you got to be looking ahead, looking further ahead. It's kind of climbing a ladder. If you get to a certain point, you start looking down, you're going to probably freeze and not move. But you always have to be looking up to keep moving up. So looking ahead. Okay, thanks for being on. We'll be on next week, Monday. Appreciate all your comments.
Tuesday.